Alright, so welcome to another Old World Battle Report from Cheap Hammer. Today is going to be a little bit different than our regular High Elves versus Empire combination of armies which we just keep on battling because, well, it's just the armies that we have at the moment. So so bear that in mind. But today there's a little bit of a surprise. We got a new player coming to play with us, but he was more available, but not necessarily available, but he was more inclined into playing Warhammer Fantasy, 8th edition, I think it was. Yeah, the last edition before Storm of Chaos. So he wanted to play a little bit of Warhammer Fantasy. So my brother agreed to play with him against him with his high elves, and they decided they wanted to play the tower, the battle that you have the tower in the middle, and you have to control the tower with a unit, and the other guy has to storm the building with an elite unit of his, 10 characters, I think it was, something like that. And has to take control of the tower, and whoever at the end of the game controls the tower wins. And if nobody controls the tower, you just check on points to see, um, yeah, to see who wins, who killed more of the other guy. So yeah, he was my brother's playing his high elves, and our opponent, his name is Merlin. He was playing Warriors of Chaos. So, but this is the interesting thing. This dude has been playing Warhammer since the first editions. Like those old, blisters that you got back in the old day, those Citadel miniature blisters and everything. Yeah, see, so we got a couple of pictures, so we're gonna take you down, if you're an old school player, down memory lane, because you got all the old school Marauders of Chaos over here. Two chariots, the old school, and you can see the Warriors of Chaos in the back, the ones that got like that, those big shoulders and that head that is a little bit like, you know, that look like it doesn't have a neck, stuff like that. And he has some trolls in the back or some ogres. I think it were ogres, and he combined them with a couple of trolls, which one of them, the one that is holding the head of that's the dwarf statue. That's from the Blood Island. I know that one. It's a good. That was a good starter kit. So we got those ogres. It's amazing, it's like the old school miniatures. I think some of them were actually from the Battle Masters. I think it was, because in Battle Masters they include you some Warriors of Chaos, some Orcs. It was that time where the whole Chaos thing was like a whole compound of various miniatures. There were not such things as the Orcs and Goblins particular army, or the Ogre Kingdoms, or the Empire and Britannia. That was like, you got your Empire, and you got your Forces of Evil, things like that. That was a more simplistic kind of game, of course. But yeah, so it was nice to see some of these miniatures, of course, of them in like the old school metal made miniatures. So it has some weight to it. So it was interesting to see. And well, the settle, we so as mentioned before, we went for a battle of the tower. And for the list, pretty much like what is visual over here, because normally I just don't write the list. I just see what I see and then make some conjecture, because sometimes we use, or in my case, or in the case of my brother, we use a lot of proxies. But Merlin is a kind of like the what you see is what you get person. Of course, he allows some level of proxies, but he, since considering, of course, that we are just like fixing our armies and getting back in the game. We're trying to convince him to jump into old world, because we're seeing the expansion of this universe, which we love, just getting better and better with the old world. So we want Merlin to jump in, but eventually he will. Or even if he doesn't, well, we can switch around with some 40k battles with him, or some battles with fantasy. I don't see really an issue with that, But as long as we can just keep going with the tabletop game, of course, within the realm of Games Workshop, which is pretty much the games that we like to play, 40K, some Overworld, some Age of Sigmar. Those are the kind of games that we really like. I think everything's gonna be fine. So anyway, so he's rocking a couple of trolls over there. I can see his Warriors of Chaos. He has a unit of Warriors of Chaos, and I think his heroes are there. He had like a wizard with the I think it was the lore of Nurgle, and he got all his he got a unit in the tower because he got the chance to control the tower on the first turn. So he had all his Warriors of Chaos in the tower, of course, with the mark of Nurgle because that makes them tougher, and it gives the enemy a -1 to hit or to wound, something like that. He has his Chaos Ogres over there and the 2 Chariots over there. And on my brother's list, he's using 2 units of archers, a big unit of swordmasters of Hoeth. I think his wizard and his noble is over there in that unit, and a unit of Illyrian Reavers in the corner. They're playing at about, I think it was 1,500 points. So yeah, that will be for deployment. So let's see in the next pictures what happens. In the next picture, Warriors of Chaos get turn number 1. So obviously the only thing that they do, I think it was Hayos, the one that got the first turn. They allotted some, because I don't see any casualties, so no, it has to be Warriors of Chaos. They got the first turn, so pretty much just everything just moved to the front because it's a concentrated melee army with a little bit of magic. But I think his magic missiles or whatever he was trying to cast, or his maybe he's right because here in fantasy you have to cast winds of magic, and I think he had some things in his army that let him conjure more power dice to his pool. Maybe he got off with some enchantment, something like that. There's got to be a couple of them from the lore of Nurgle that just give you maybe a ward save or something like that, or maybe some sort of extra protection against arrows, whatever, you know. My brother was using high magic, that's what I remember. All right, so everything just moved to the front, and for the high elves, his main unit of sword masters move a little bit to the front, and I think he shot at the Marauders of Chaos, because of course it's the most uh, easiest unit to bring down. The only problem over there is like all the time when you're shooting arrows, this is one thing that you have to consider because it just like it's the same thing in old world. Like arrows are fine. Like I mean, believe me, I played high elves a couple of times. I like that army. And what I like to use is mostly just like archers. You know, I just like archers like this because it's one of the few units in the game that has the longbow and that ballistic skill that just like you have to really go for the 2 lines because of the volley fire. You're gonna have your second line just shooting half of its capacity, but you have to be able to just like spread all your archers across the battlefield or just like make them have like line of sight to the enemy and just make sure that you get the best out of those 30 inches that they have. You just gotta get the best out of them because it's like the only unit where you can have all that amount of shots in core at a good price, and that then reach 30 inches, which is insane that they can reach that amount with the longbow. 30 inches with that ballistic skill, which already counters one of the issues, which is you get the movement and that you get the range. So when you got range, when you're taking in consideration 30 inches, you got a good range, but you got to remember that 15 of them, it's a -1. Because, of course, there's a lot of space in between you and the enemy. If you're already in 15 inches, I mean, you're already in a good range. And, of course, you don't get the penalization, but that just means also that the enemy is closer to you. So that's not a very good thing. But those 30 inches, the good thing is like you get those 30 inches, but also because of the ballistic skill of the high elves, you just counter that -1 with your ballistic skill because you're gonna shoot on 3s if you were on regular distance, but now you're gonna shoot on 4s because it's longer. But 4s is great. In probability, of course, is half of the shots are gonna be done. So if you got like a unit of 20, let's say you settle a unit of 20 archers, 10 in the front, 10 in the back, so you're gonna get 15 shots. From all of those 15 shots, you're gonna get 7.58 on average, so that's that. And then because of your strength 3, if you go, you gotta go for things that you know that you can kill, because at that point you got 7 shots and you're going for sixes. You might as well just like you're gonna get perhaps one or two, most likely one, and that's not gonna do a lot of damage. But if you get them on a unit that has strength 3, toughness 3, sorry, you're gonna get half of those shots in, so you can cause a couple of wounds. So of course, you gotta take in consideration the armor saves and everything from the other unit, because it's on 5, so it's gonna. So when it comes to it, sorry, as my phone just keeps ringing. So when it comes to it, like you're still going to get not so much wounds, but you gotta maximize the amount of the possibility of that. It's like I've seen them really work and operate greatly against, for example, like there was this battle report that we had that was just the regular Empire against High Elves, and I was using my archers against some odd riders or some units that were like fast cavalry that I know that their save is not really good. They got maybe light armor or something like that, and that was pretty much it. So when you get those are, but the interesting thing about it, like in their profile, yeah, it's a mounted unit, it's a horse, etc. Blah blah blah, but it has one wound, and that's very important. Why is that very important? Because each one of those guys cost a lot of money, a lot of points. Sorry, of course, the miniature costs a lot of money, but that's completely something else. But the miniature itself costs a lot of points, and those points over there, it doesn't pay the fact that it only has one wound. So that's important. That's where the archers come to shine. Why? Because you shoot at that unit and you reduce by half and half because the toughness is going to be 3, so you get half and half. So half of 7.5 is around 3.5, so you're going to get 3 or 4 ones, let's say. But the save of those units, of those fast cavalry units, is barely nothing. So what you're gonna get from that unit is just gonna get like maybe if you get 3 or 4 wounds, let's say that he doesn't make any 6, or he doesn't make 1/6, just a regular armor save from fast cavalry, that is devastating. Why? Because yeah, well, you're going to create a lot of damage. It's just insane the amount of damage that you're gonna cause. You're going to have to force them to make like a panic, just like a panic run. So that's against units like that in an army like that is very movable, that has units that don't save with a lot, that have one wound, that have toughness 3. So you have to take all these factors into consideration. Units that have one wound, that have toughness 3. It has to be toughness 3 because if the toughness starts getting higher, you might as well don't shoot that unit. Why? Because you're gonna start shooting on 5s, and yeah, it's just pointless. They just start using the archers. So against like very very like soft armies, it could work, but also you gotta take in consideration never use it against, like if you cost 3 or 4 wounds maximum from the unit that you're shooting with, take also in consideration that the unit that is receiving the shots, if it's a big target of just like 80 wounds or something like that, like a big unit, a horde, well, then it's also useless. Why? Because it's going to take them 2 turns to get to your main battle line, and maybe if you put 5 units of just archers just to bring those down, I mean, like it's not gonna pay off. Why? Because let's repeat the whole process, and considering also that these units have light armor or something like that, so they're gonna save 1, or maybe they got a shield. Maybe they're gonna save 2 out of all your shots sometimes. So considering all that, just keep shooting your arrows at the Death Star, maybe 5 units of 20 archers each one, which is already exceeding the cost of what they're really doing on the battlefield. And you don't cost enough wins, and then they get into combat, and pretty much your archers are just useless at that point. Which is another thing that it's interesting. We saw it in a previous battle report. The archers are not that bad on combat because they got a higher initiative. So if you're going against just regular other armies, you can use them also for combat because they attack first. So that gives you an advantage point. And they're pretty solid when it comes to fighting. I mean, like, there's not really much of a difference between a swordsman of the Empire, a Bretonnian man-at-arms, and just a regular elven archer. The only difference is the archer is gonna hit first. So if they dwindle your unit with some arrows and then hit you, it could be a good combination. But anyway, I'm getting way off topic. Let's get back into the game. So he probably shot the Marauders of Chaos, and caused a couple of wounds in it. And his Illyrian rivers are moving over there. You can see them on the side of the tower, just getting closer. So let's see um, in the next pictures what happened. Next picture, just everything stays the same. His battle line is over there. They threw some magic at each other. Um, the Aleian Rivers took a couple of shots at the trolls, the only unit that is like closer, so they had to do it. Of course, it was not going to cause any damage because, as I said before, it's like strength 3 against toughness 4 and sometimes toughness 5. I mean, you're looking at 6s at best. You got only 5 shots, even with a good ballistic skill, and even if you got those rules that don't apply when you move and shoot, that you don't get those penalizations like if you move and shoot and stuff like that. 5 shots are just 5 shots. 5 shots on a ballistic skill 4. Let's say that you're in range. You got 3, so take 2 off, maybe 3. Strength 3 against toughness 5. I mean, it's like at 6. You're lucky if you get 1 wound, and none of those got like. All those trolls got like 3 wounds each, and they got regeneration. So it's like it's pretty pointless to do something like that. But you gotta use your shots, you use your shots, But it's not necessarily like the best option. But everything just moved forward and took a couple of more shots at the Marauders. Chariots are getting closer. Let's see what happens in the next pictures. He engaged the Marauders of Chaos with his sword masters of Howet. It seems like that has been the thing. He tried to maneuver the trolls. Of course, trolls are subject to stupidity, so obviously the trolls maybe didn't move that much, failed the stupidity test, and they got pretty below leadership, so that doesn't work really in their favor. But yeah, we got the trolls on one side and the chaos ogres on the other side. Chariots moving in. The archers, pretty much at this point, they're not doing much. Why? Because just the issue with them is like if they in this battlefield they were not really going to make much of a difference. Um, we thought at first that it was going to be a good idea if you put archers, but now we realize that the archers were not going to do that much damage, not very significantly. We should have gone for something else, but it doesn't matter, It's like you learn from these things and you start getting better. Anyway, so he charged with the sword masters, and of course he get the 2 hits and all that advantage and all that speed and everything. And against Marauders, yeah, they can cause some good damage, but there's going to be some challenges from his champions into the unit. I was expecting more of him to storm the castle, the tower, with his sword masters, but he went for the Marauders. Hopefully, hoping that they could just clear the unit and then storm the building. But let's see what happens in the next picture. Considering all magic and everything, it seems like one of his heroes, it seems like his champion, had the challenge. We accepted one of the challenges, and that's what happens. He took the challenge. Leland River shooting at the trolls. Archers not pretty much not shooting at anything. They could be shooting at the trolls, or they could be shooting at the chariots. But again, I don't think it's very effective. I think the archers are pretty much just a waste at this point. The sword masters are a pretty solid unit. They can pretty much they can do some good damage to um, multiple core units or different sorts of enemies. But I think in this sense, and with the mark of Nurgle and everything, it's like it starts to the consequences of this is very visible. Um, but let's see what happens. We still have hope that there's some things could have changed during the battle, but I'm not pretty sure what magics have been casted. But most probably some apotheosis here, some walk between worlds to try to make them, ethereal, so that the hits from the units cannot go through. And he could just perform all these attacks from the Swordmaster. I think they still have the killing blow ability. I'm not pretty sure, because on Old World, like, they got nerfed really bad. Like, they got a higher initiative, but just one attack. They don't have their two attacks anymore. But here in Fantasy, they were still pretty solid unit. Let's see what happens in the next turn. Everything has stayed the same. This is just another perspective of the same. Let's see. So yeah, danger zone. Like, the ogres are getting closer, as well as the chariots. Um, some casualties on the side of the marauders, and some casualties on the side of the swordmasters, because at the end, like, you can have the Swordmasters of Hoad, and they are a pretty solid unit, but if the enemy has a lot of these things, like some how to say it, so many factors that could just nullify the bonuses of your sword masters, was going to be pretty impossible to do some damage. It's like, you can have the most elite unit, but if he has like, all this -1 this, -1 that, it's pretty much just GG at that point. I think the battle didn't last that long. Let me see. It seems like it's coming to a closing, because the chariots are just coming in. The unit of archers are over there, and he has control of the tower. The Alien Rivas cannot take control of the tower. And yeah, I mean, like, the sword masters are great in combat, but when it comes to receiving hits or receiving damage, they're unit that can, on the first turn, they have to do some significant damage to whoever they are fighting against. But if later on they don't, if later on that was not the case, man, they get obliterated by the enemy, because they only have, like, heavy armor as far as I'm concerned, so they save up 5. But whatever is hitting you, it's going to be strength 4, so that just takes 1, because it starts chipping on the armor. Strength starts chipping on the armor in this edition. So you're looking at 6 on saves, and they had, like, that weird ward save that they can deflect bullets, but that's just bullets. That has nothing to do with combat. So yeah, I mean, like, they can get killed really fast. As I say, and also, it's like elves. They're made out of paper. So, you could just blow darts at them and they'll just die instantly. So yeah, it's not looking good for the elves. Let's see another picture. All right, so the next picture, pretty much, yeah, they conceded victory to the Warriors of Chaos. It was a solid, like, a defensive thing, like a defensive list for the High Elves, and they were expecting to get the tower in the first turn, but obviously, like, it's complicated when it comes to getting, like, the perfect list, or creating the best synergy to counter the enemy, or to see what works best for the enemy. Because, of course, in this case, like, the archers are a good unit, but you have to analyze what I previously said, like, all the advantages of the archers, like, where they shine, and you gotta break this, like, in probability and statistic, and you gotta break these possibilities, and you gotta crunch these numbers in order to extract the real the best possible scenario for every unit that you're gonna use. As I mentioned before, like, if you put the archers against units that compound all of these characteristics, number one, that they have a single one. Number two, that they are costly. Number three, that they come on elite groups, let's say of 5 or 10 or something like that, that they have a toughness maximum of 3. Maximum toughness must be 3. That must be the thing. And they don't save with a lot of armor. Where do you get units like this? Well, you get them on scouts. You get them on um, on fast cavalry. You get them on chaff units. You get them chaff. What I mean chaff is, like, for example, some hounds, some vampire counts, dire wolves and things like that. You know, it's like toughness 3, 1 wound, 5 wound, 1 wound each character, 5 models, etc. It creates it makes the perfect sense. Those are that's necessarily great targets that you can eliminate them one go with the archers. You know, because Death Stars, as I said before, you're not going to kill a lot of them. It's not worth it. You're going to waste your shots. So what can you do? You can use those stars. Like, for example, you can put, what would it work better, or what could be a better strategy? Let's say you use some repeater bolt throwers. You put like 3 repeater bolt throwers just to wait over there for the enemy. So, but you're taking in consideration that perhaps they're going to use a scouting unit to try to take your war machines out before you arrive. So you put 20 archers over there. So 20 archers to guard the repeater bolt throwers. They had 30 range radius. So yeah, I mean the things that are trying to hunt them or everything, they're gonna get shot and they're gonna get killed. So like for example, you can put 2 repeater bolt throwers, the archers in the middle, and another repeater bolt thrower, just in case that you put 3 of them, so that you get the archers also protected by the repeater bolt throwers, and you get them, you have them there in a perfect way that you can cover everything, you know, and you have line of sight. You will see how you do it, you know, because some of them appear maybe 12 inches or 8 inches away from your battle line. That's perfect. Don't put them so close to the border, so you can have that space, so you can put the archers behind, and you can have that line of vision if something appears from either of the sides, or that frontal vision, so something that pops into their 90-degree angle vision, front arc vision, just can shoot them over there. So that's where they shine. Now shooting Death Stars and shooting things that have higher toughness or higher save, not recommendable. It's just like it's not worth it. So keep 2 units of 20 archers or something like that. It could probably work. The only way is like the other thing that you can make them work is perhaps just by using some sort of like combination with a magic that allows you to repeat once, or that lowers their strength or something like that. Something that you can just throw and then shoot the arrows and just cause maximum damage. Something like that. That could definitely work. But just it's a very specific scenario, because now you need 2 things to make that work. And when I say the repeater bolt throwers, I mean like the repeater bolt throwers. It was like, works at least in old world, it's like a D3 plus 3. So you get standard, you're gonna get 4 shots, and that's 4 shots with a higher strength, so strength 4, and it has like a -2 AP or something like that. I don't remember. I mean, maybe -1 or -2. I don't remember. But it's a good amount of shots, and they got elvish ballistic skill, so that's even better. So um, you counter that issue of range. So half of them are gonna get in. And then it is strength 4. Well, if you're looking at toughness 4, guys, so half of those are gonna come in. But the good thing is that you have 48 inches of range, and that is insane. You can be on the other half of the map. They're never gonna get to you, and you can shoot the elite units also with those. Now you gotta be careful with them, but as I said before, that's why you get the archers over there, so they can protect it as best as possible. And those archers can just, just provide a couple of more shots, but it's more of defensive units. It's a unit that you keep over there with some war machines to keep them safe. It's kind of like the gunman from the Empire or something like that. You just keep them with the war machines just to keep them safe. Also with the militia. Militia is just a cheap unit. You can keep them over there to just protect your war machines. Like you put all your war machines close to one corner and everything, and you put a couple of militia, you pop over there 20 militia just to keep guard of them. So everything that comes out, you just charge them with the militia. It doesn't matter if they get devastated, but it gives you one turn to think what you're gonna do, and keeps your war machine safe for one turn or something like that. So that's a good thing. That's a way that you can use it. Because for example, I use a lot of cannons of the Empire when I fight. Now, the good thing about cannons is like if they pop on the side, I'll put the militia there so that the militia can do something about them. And if they pop on the front, well, big mistake. Like if you're just a monster or something like that, and you pop in the front for some unexplainable reason that they got Vanguard and all these things, or scouts, some rule like that, well, I'm gonna shoot all the cannonballs at you, and you're pretty much gonna die. Like it's guaranteed that I'm gonna kill you. And if you're just a regular unit, like for example, Lyrian Rivers, and it happened on a, on a battle that we had later, Lyrian Rivers or whatever. I'm just gonna do the grape shots, and they cause a lot of damage because they hit automatically. So it's a lot of wounds that you can just allocate to that unit that you're gonna wipe it out. Now, if you're operating with mortars, mortals you use them when you, for example, you're going against orcs and goblins, caven, even high elves and things like that, because it's just a big template. It just banishes anything that is beneath it. Why? Because the toughness of the enemy is not that high. So you just plant it over there and just destroy them. Anyway, I'm going off topic again. So pretty much that was the whole battle. And yeah, it was a devastating defeat for the High Elves, but we learned a lot of things about that, and it's really good to see or to get a couple of different armies, in the battlefield. Not all the time Empire against High Elves. Of course, High Elves, like 50% of the classic was in the game, but you get what you get. Anyway, so thank you very much for watching this battle report, and we'll see you in the next one.